Hello friends, my name is Ryan, and I'm going to tell you a story named The Taxi Driver's Confession, Chronicles of a Night Shift, which is a very amazing story full of twists. So, let's start. It was a cold and foggy night in the city. The streetlights flickered, casting long shadows on the damp road. The clock in the corner of the taxi's dashboard blinked 12:30 a.m., perfect timing for a night shift. I had been driving through the empty streets for hours, my only company the hum of the engine and the occasional buzz of the radio. The city seemed quieter than usual, almost as if something was waiting, lurking in the corners, just beyond the light. As I drove past the usual spots, a car pulled up behind me. It was an old sedan, its headlights glaring into my rearview mirror. I couldn't see the driver, but I knew something was off. The car had been following me for a while, and I couldn't shake the feeling that it wasn't just coincidence. I pulled over at a red light, and the sedan stopped behind me, just a little too close for comfort. I stared at the rearview mirror, my heart starting to race. The light turned green, but the car stayed still. Something wasn't right. I took a deep breath and pulled away slowly. I didn't want to make any sudden moves. The car continued to follow me, its headlights a constant glare in my mirrors. I could feel the sweat starting to bead on my forehead. What did this person want? Why were they following me? I made a sharp turn down a narrow alley, hoping to lose the car in the maze of streets. But the sedan followed without hesitation, its engine growling as it gained on me. I pushed the accelerator, trying to speed up, but my taxi was old and sluggish. The sedan was much faster. Before I knew it, the car was right on my tail, so close I could almost hear the engine growl behind me. Suddenly, the sedan swerved around me and cut me off, blocking my path. I slammed on the brakes, heart pounding in my chest. The car came to a halt in front of me, and I sat there, frozen. What should I do? What was happening? The door of the sedan opened, and a man stepped out. He was tall, with a dark coat and a fedora pulled low over his face. He walked toward my cab, and I felt a chill run down my spine. My instincts told me to drive away, but something kept me glued to the seat. The man stopped in front of my cab and knocked on the window. I hesitated for a moment before rolling it down. "Taxi driver," he said in a gravelly voice. "I need you to listen to me carefully." I didn't speak. The man didn't wait for an answer. Instead, he leaned closer to the window, his face now visible in the dim light. His eyes were wide and bloodshot, and there was a strange, almost manic look in them. "I've been following you for a reason," he continued. "And it's not what you think. I'm not here to rob you, I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here because I need your help." My heart was racing. What kind of help could he possibly need from me? I couldn't make sense of it, but I knew I needed to hear him out. This could be the twist I wasn't expecting. "I was a passenger in one of your taxis, a long time ago," the man said, his voice trembling. "You don't remember me, but you gave me a ride that changed my life. And now I need you to do something for me. Something that will fix everything." I leaned in, trying to make sense of what he was saying. My mind was spinning. Had I ever driven this man before? I tried to remember every face I'd seen on my night shifts, but his didn't ring any bells. But his words were chilling, like a distant memory tugging at the edge of my mind. "Do you remember the night you drove someone to the old warehouse on Hawthorne Street?" he asked, his voice almost a whisper now. Hawthorne Street. That was a place I hadn't thought about in years. The old warehouse had been abandoned for decades, a place people avoided. I nodded, unsure where this conversation was heading. The man's eyes widened, and he took a step back, as though he was bracing himself for something. "I need you to take me back there. It's important. You have no idea how much is at stake." I felt a strange mix of fear and curiosity flood my senses. What could possibly be waiting for us at the warehouse? Why was he so desperate? Before I could respond, he opened the back door of my taxi and slid inside. "Take me to Hawthorne Street," he ordered, and his voice left no room for argument. My hands shook as I started the engine and made my way toward the old street. The fog had thickened, and the streetlights grew dimmer as we neared our destination. I could feel the tension in the air, and it was suffocating. I glanced in the rearview mirror, but the man's face was hidden in the shadows. I couldn't see his expression, but I could feel the weight of his eyes on me. When we arrived at Hawthorne Street, the old warehouse loomed in the distance, its windows shattered and covered with grime. The place had always given me the creeps, and tonight, it seemed even darker, more foreboding than I remembered. The man got out of the taxi without a word, and I followed him, my heart pounding in my chest. He led me to the entrance, which was barely standing, the door hanging on its hinges. Inside, the air was thick with dust, and the floor creaked beneath our feet. The place smelled like rot and decay. As we walked deeper into the warehouse, I noticed something strange. There were old, rusted chains hanging from the rafters, and the walls were covered with strange symbols that seemed to glow faintly in the darkness. "What is this place?" I asked, my voice shaking. The man turned to face me, his eyes wild. "It's where it all started. The place where everything went wrong." He stepped forward and reached for a hidden panel in the wall. I didn't have time to react before the panel opened, revealing a small room inside. The man gestured for me to enter. I stepped inside, and my eyes went wide. The room was filled with old photographs, some yellowed with age, others just blackened with time. But what caught my attention was the picture in the center of the room, a photograph of a young woman, smiling, with the same man standing beside her. "That's my sister," he said softly. "And this is where she died." My stomach twisted as I looked at the picture. What was this man talking about? What had happened to his sister? "She was murdered," he whispered. "And I'm here to make sure her death wasn't in vain." I could feel the tension building, the weight of his words sinking in. The pieces were starting to fall into place, but I wasn't sure if I was ready for what was coming next. Before I could ask another question, a loud bang echoed through the warehouse. The door slammed shut behind us, and we were plunged into darkness. The man grabbed my arm, pulling me toward the back of the room. "You need to get out of here," he said urgently. "They're coming. You have to leave now." I had no idea who they were or what was happening, but I didn't hesitate. I ran with the man, the echo of our footsteps filling the empty warehouse as I struggled to keep up. But as we reached the exit, I turned to find the man was no longer there. The warehouse stood empty. Silent. I was alone. I never found out what happened to that man or his sister. But every night since that encounter, I've felt a cold chill, as though someone is watching me from the shadows. And now, friends, if you're still with me, you've heard the truth. A truth that's been hidden for far too long. Remember, no one,